Hello, everyone. I hope you all had a good tea break and a good coffee break and are enjoying your event on the React Day today. So, today we will be talking about accelerating UI engineering and improving the customer experience using Developer Toolkit. Before that, hey, I'm Navya. I work as a software developer at Adobe Systems, and I currently look after the optimizing the performance as well as the scalability of the system. Okay, let's dive in. The agenda of today's talk is the motivation, why we built this particular product, what was the use case, what was the scenario. Next, we have the design and architecture of our developer toolkit. Next, we have the components that should be a part of the ideal CI/CD pipeline. Next, we will be taking you to the strategies to reduce the front-end build time with CI/CD, then the future aspects of this particular solution, and some key takeaways for the audience. Okay, so before we start with the actual content of today's talk, I have a few questions for you all. So let's make it interactive and feel free to use the chat box to answer them. So while shipping changes to the production, do you fear that you might have missed a critical bug? Do you fear that that might be the end customer or the user might hate the new experience? Do you also fear that your code might have broke down? It might break down the current existing customer experience. Do you wait weeks or months for simple changes to go out live for your customers? If the answer is yes to most of the questions that I just asked you, then your situation might be something like this when you are pushing things to prod, which clearly is not pleasant. Now imagine this. Bugs go in the live code, get fixed with nearly zero risk. Almost all the bugs get caught very early in the development cycle so that you don't annoy your certain questions that I already read you guys out. But and explaining the situation, what if you fear these scenarios, but what if you actually wait for weeks and months for the simple changes to go out for prod to your customers? So you will be in a situation something like this. And what we want is not to put you guys in this situation, and we want that all the new features can be toggled on and off and gradually rolled out in the production. We also want that all the bugs get caught very early in the development cycle so that you don't annoy your end customer. Also, we would definitely want that the changes are made in real time, as well as the key business matrix attached to these feature set is also achieved in real time. This is awesome, isn't it? So in order to achieve this kind of agility, what we need is a CI/CD pipeline. I'm sure most of you might be aware what a CI/CD pipeline is, but for the unversed, CI/CD stands for continuous integration and continuous deployment. The objective of having this pipeline is to ensure that we detect any errors or discrepancies very early in the development cycle, and at the same time focus on the continuous deployment for our feature set. Now let's talk about our motivation at Adobe, why we all know, okay, a CI/CD pipeline is good, but I just wanted to take you through the journey why we wanted it in the first place. Now at Adobe, we have quite a huge number of teams that build single page applications. So we wanted to have something, a centralized pipeline and push for standardization. Now consider a scenario that we have user one who is named Rohit, and he just joined Adobe. And as a part of the first work that he is given, he is supposed to build a single page application. Apart from building the application, bundling it, Rohit also thinks that I should maybe put linting, maybe put unit testing, end-to-end test cases, performance analysis before I push this particular thing to prod. Now let's assume we have Aditya as user two, who also joined Adobe roughly at the same time. And he is also given a similar job that he is also supposed to create a single page application and make it available for the customers. So what Aditya thinks that apart from writing the code, He also writes some unit test cases for his particular application. He also does the accessibility testing. He also goes to the security and integration test cases. Now, it's clearly evident that Rohit's definition of done is quite different from Adit's definition of done. So, we wanted to eliminate such redundancies and push for standardization across users, across teams, across all. The motivation. So, as I just told you, that we wanted to push for standardization. Next comes in the with that we also wanted to focus on building one team that handles all the infrastructure, automating feature set, as well as the capabilities for testing, for localization, etc. With this, teams can focus solely on the development workflow. This brings in two benefits. The first one is increasing the development velocity, and all this heavy lifting work is done by one team. Also, a huge saving on the infrastructure cost. So before this particular setup was in place, each of the teams used to have their own CI/CD pipeline, which meant that multiple infrastructure costs. So now with just one centralized pipeline, we have all the infra cost at one place. Now let's just have a look at the quick sneak peek into our architecture for this particular pipeline. Let's talk about the architecture. Okay. So talking about the architecture of our system, as you can see that this is a very simplified and a very immature snapshot of our architecture. So what we have over here, so we are using Jenkins for our CI/CD pipeline, and we are using Git webhooks for communicating to our Jenkins setup. So as you can see over here in this particular box, we have different repositories, each pertaining to a different single page application. As soon as the user makes any merges or pushes anything to this particular repository, a Git webhook event is triggered, which interacts with my Jenkins master. So let's leave this box for a couple of minutes and I'll just come back to it later. As soon as the Jenkins master receives a Git incoming Git webhook, what it does, it makes a connection with the Jenkins agent. So we are using Kubernetes setup. We have a Kubernetes cluster wherein all the Docker agents are spent up. So and the pipeline then basically runs on these Docker agents. So at the end of the pipeline, all the static assets are pushed to Azure Blob Store. So we are using Azure Blob Store for storing our assets, which are later on served by the server that we have in-house in place, as well as these assets are being synced to the Azure CDN to ensure that we have good optimization and caching capabilities. Not talking about this box, you might be seeing things like HA proxy, Jenkins master, Jenkins primary agent. So and might be wondering what exactly is this, right? So we wanted to ensure 100% availability of this particular setup to our customers. In order to ensure that we have a HA proxy mechanism over here, what it does, it ensures that in case the primary master goes down, secondary master can take its place automatically. So what happens is that there's a cron job that is being run between the primary master and the secondary master at a definite interval of point, and which does the sync. So just to ensure that these two masters are completely synced at any point. And let's say the primary master goes down, then the secondary master automatically takes its place. So this setup is just to ensure that we have 100% availability of this particular system for our customers. Okay. Now, okay, so far we have seen that, okay, what a CI/CD pipeline is, what benefits does it bring to the table. But now let's talk about what should be the ideal CI/CD pipeline look like. The first and the foremost impact that we wanted to target at our organization was automated testing. Here, I have broadly classified all the test scenarios that we can imagine at three different levels to make the most positive impact. In the first category, you see things like unit testing, linting, integration testing, static code analysis that we achieve via Sonar Cube, and likewise. So these are some things that I call the fast to run, fast to fail kind of test. And these acts as the first safeguard against bugs. So these are something that are mainly responsible for developers within the team. Now, coming to the second category, we have end-to-end scheduler test as well as security testing. So these play a major role when it comes to cross-functional or org level things. Last but not the least, we have feature flagging and accessibility kind of test, which make sure that they guarantee a better and more inclusive experience for our customers. So here you see the same thing that I just talked about in basically a pictorial mode. And also, this particular timeline just talks about the impact that each of the tests has in the CI/CD world. So probably, for example, linting and unit testing have a major impact as compared to performance analysis or bundle analysis, and likewise. Also, in this particular screenshot, you see that how the tests are divided between team versus org and user level. Okay. So this is a snapshot of the contract between the SPA pipeline team and the developer who is leveraging this particular pipeline. So as you can see, this particular file is a YAML file which takes in the various commands from the user. So for example, you can see the build command, the unit test command, the integration test command, etc. The user is just supposed to specify some make targets or yarn or npm scripts, and the pipeline will be picking them and running as per the progression. Okay. So in addition to the extensive automation testing tool that we just saw, we also provide these particular out of the box features for providing a better experience to our developers. First of all is the rollback functionality. Developers can roll back in case of emergency scenarios to a previous stable version. Next is switching from manual to automatic mode for localized strings. So another capability that we have added is earlier developers used to localize the strings at their local machine manually and push them into the CI/CD build process. But by making this automated and making it as a part of the current pipeline, we have now converted CI/CD basically into a CI/CD CL pipeline, and so that customers or developers can have localized strings from day one. We also publish modules to Artifactory, apart from pushing them to the blob store. So this ensures that any of the experimental versions, so for example, for PRs, it might be an alpha beta version. And when the developer is confident enough to push the things to prod, we release the minor patch or the major version as per the developer specification. Now talking about confirmation workflow, which is pause and validate before going live, right? So let's consider a scenario that you are all set, you have tested your PR, you are pushing the things to prod, you click on that merge button and the pipeline flows. Now, in between over here somewhere, one of your colleagues just pings you that, we missed testing this particular critical bug or critical feature, which is very much important for this feature. So now you have only two options. Either just pray to the gods that all is working fine and your colleague it was probably a false alarm, or maybe your colleague was actually right and you missed some scenario, it was critical, it is breaking your changes, and so you will be waiting for this particular pipeline to complete and making a rollback. Clearly none of these situations is really ideal, right? So what we have provided is kind of a pause and validate before going live. So in such scenarios, you can pause your build, test it out, and in case everything was fine, just click on the proceed button. And in case something was actually wrong, you can click on the abort button. So by making use of this particular feature, you can ensure that you don't have to go through that hassle of rollbacks or pray to the gods. So yeah. Next we have next we have cross-lab library sharing with CDN support. So as I was mentioning previously that we use Azure CDN for storing our assets and fetching the contents from the thing. So, but it has, so there may be scenarios that the Azure CDN is on an outrage. So what will happen in that scenario? we can't let our customers show a empty website or just say that our Azure CDN is down. So first, in order to deal with such scenarios, we wanted to ensure 100% availability for our customers. So we have a asset fallback support, which ensures that in case the CDN is down, the assets will be fetched from the blob store or the content server that we have in place. So this just ensures that we have 100% availability for our customers. Next is automated changelog generation. So it would be fantastic if from the Git metadata that you can see on the left side of your screen that this is an important fix for customers, you have something that you see on the right side of the screen. So we also have added this capability of automating the changelog generation / release notes from the Git metadata that user is entering as a part of the Git comments. Next, and the very important feature is the preview links for PRs. So consider this rough snapshot of the app that you are seeing on the screen. So it has a black banner and it is currently on stage. Now, let's say I am making a feature change in which I have to change this black thing to a red banner, right? So this is currently on my local development or it will be on prod soon. But what if I have to take this particular PR to my managers or to my product manager or to my QA? So in that case, I definitely can't take my laptop everywhere. What would be best is if I can give them some sort of URL, a preview link for them to test this particular thing out, give this particular PR their feedback, and then we take it to prod. So for this particular purpose, we have preview links for our PRs. This ensures that before going out in production, you can have such PR-based links that can be taken throughout the organization to collect feedbacks and testing scenarios. Okay. Lastly, talking about notifications. So we have multiple channels on which we send out our notifications. So first is the mailer, depending on whether the PR was a success or failure, we send out this particular message. Next, we have the build URLs and the preview links posted as a part of the Git comment history. So as you can see on this top left corner, you see that a warning, okay, the build size for that particular PR increased by this and this thing. Also, we use Slack for internal team communication. So we also send these particular build notifications to the Slack as well. Okay. So far until now, we saw that building such a pipeline and making it as automated as possible is like giving superpowers to the developers. But with added capabilities comes added build time. What if adding all these feature set increases my build pipeline time to, let's say, 35 minutes or 45 minutes? This is not clearly a good scenario, right? So now I want to take you through some steps that we at Adobe ensure we have integrated in our system to make sure that we optimize the front end build time with CI/CD so as to keep our SLA down, along with all the capabilities that I just showed you. So the first step is the stage order optimization by parallelizing the stages within the CI/CD. So as you can see in this particular screenshot, any of the non-interdependent stages are basically put under parallel stages. So for example, build is not at all dependent on linting, or let's say linting is not at all dependent on unit test. So you can parallelize these stages just to ensure that your SLA is really down. Next is using parallel webpacks. So let's assume that you have two entry points for your application. So consider this particular screenshot for better understanding. So as you can see in the first, at the top part of the box, that you have an entry point named as first job.js. And in the second point, you have second job.js, right? So you can run both these two entry points builds parallelly, and this will ensure that you have a good time, and basically the first job and the second job are basically built at the same time, which means that you will be having a 50% reduction of your build time overall. Next we have is using downstream job for non-blocking stages. So basically, as you can see in this particular screenshot, there is this particular box which says user experience test. So these tests are something that I don't want that they will be determining the result of my build, right? So this can be some form of, let's say, performance testing, which I might just want to have a look at them later, and they are not determining the success or failure of my pipeline. So in those scenarios, you can use a downstream job which runs these particular tests in a async fashion. So as you can see in the bottom of your screen that these user experience tests to 4 minutes. So since we are running them in a async fashion, you are saving 4 minutes of your time on the entire build SLA. The next technique that we use is pipeline caching for NPM node module install. This just like we have a local cache at our local machine, we also maintain a cache at our Jenkins workspaces. This ensures that every time we are running a new build or we are rerunning a new build, um, uh, npm install does not take place from scratch. Whatever is available as a part of cache is picked from there, and only the dependencies which have changed or are added are downloaded from the internet or the artifactory. Next strategy that we follow in order to optimize the CI/CD pipeline is the catching the build failures early. So let's consider a scenario that you have unit test, linting, and build. Now what you would want is that unit test and linting is something that might fail very frequently as compared to a build step. So the order you should maintain is that you should have your unit test and linting prior as compared to the build step, just to make sure that in case there are any errors in these stages, they are cached early, and you don't have to follow the entire pipeline and wait it to complete and give you an error message. Next is running ITs and UTs parallelly. So various frameworks, for example, just if you're using for unit test cases, or in case you are using Test Cafe or Cypress for integration test cases, they have a mechanism by which you can run the test within a particular framework parallelly. And you can use Jenkins parallel execution of stages for running these tests. This also ensures a good SLA time. Last but not the least is ad hoc stage execution. So let's assume that you are in a scenario where you want to, that I know that my integration test cases won't be failing because of this particular fix, or let's say my static code analysis won't have an effect. So basically what I want to see is how my unit tests are performing or how my linting is performing, and I really don't want to complete the entire 10 stages of the pipeline. So for those purposes, we also have ad hoc stage execution, which lessens the build time of the pipeline, and the customer can just build what he or she asked. Yeah, I think that was all about the content of today's talk. Talking about the path forward or the capabilities that we want to add as a part of this particular pipeline is we also want to add renovate app support to ensure that any dependency change is automatically applied to the particular PR. We want to support custom Docker images for tests. We also want to enable differential CI, meaning to say that only the parts of the pipeline that have changed are touched or are built by the pipeline. The rest of the parts are not touched by the pipeline, and thereby decreasing the total SLA. We also want to integrate Jenkins with Jira. Currently, we have single page applications only on our pipeline, so we also want to extend this capability to multiple page applications. Some key takeaways or major points for the audience. So, as we know, today using CI/CD developer tools is a must for any web application development. Automated testing offers compounding productivity savings, both in terms of the developer velocity as well as the infrastructure costs. Think and choose that what works for you, for your use case, for your organization. There is no right, no wrong. It's not required that you need to have all the set of capabilities. It is completely user specific and organization specific. Um, Optimizing web apps is a must, we all know, but so is optimizing CI/CD. So yeah, thanks. I had a lovely time with you all. Let's engage and collaborate. Also, on a side note, Adobe is hiring across all different levels, both in the front end as well as the back end domain. So in case you are interested, feel free to ping me over LinkedIn, or you can visit our career website. Thanks a lot. Thank you.